Are you ready?
Yes.
If you wanna be somebody, if you wanna go somewhere, you better wake up and pay attention. If you hate misogyny, if you're sick of all these men, you better join Team Tolerator. If you wanna find out how the TV rots your brain, you gotta become a jelly pop. Hi, everyone. It's still Comfy Tuesday with Natalie and Jules.
I loved that.
Thank you.
It was
Thank
so
you.
cute. It was so good.
Thank you.
I loved the message. It was
Thank
very
you.
on brand for both
Maybe
of us.
American Idol's going to call me from Still Comfy and Not Drop Out TV. It'll be fine. Whoever wants to call me.
I mean, just hire us.
Hire us.
We're good.
Sam Reich, did you hear me make some noise? Did you hear me?
I wish I had like a noise maker because that would have been funny. But
Honestly.
I don't have shit in my office except for piles of things that need to be gone through.
Right. We haven't named the Still Comfy audience, and why would we? But hi, friends. This is Still Comfy with Natalie and Jules. If you couldn't tell from the intro, then you haven't watched the best movie of all time, Sister Act 2.
The best movie in the entire world. Whoopi Goldberg's greatest work in her entire life.
And what basically set Lauryn Hill off to be so successful she could not show up to her own shows and people will still buy tickets.
I feel like she was already kind of successful before
Was she?
this.
I don't know.
The Fugees were around.
Oh, okay.
This was before her solo. Like, this is the 25th anniversary of the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. So 25 years ago was 1998.
Math sucks.
So I feel like she was doing the Fugees. I think she was already like, hey, like if we got Lauryn Hill, that might be a get.
Oh, she was a draw.
I could be wrong.
We could be wrong. We don't know. But I don't have a...
Because I was a baby.
Jules always summarizes the movie, and I'm like, you guys should have watched the movie that I did not announce until today.
You had an hour and a half to prepare.
You had an hour and a half to watch. It's an hour and 40 minutes. You had enough time.
You had enough time. Yeah, the Fugees, 1999. So 3 years into their career when this movie came out.
But Sister Act, back in the habit.
Sister Act 2.
Sister Act 2, back in the habit. Stars Whoopi Goldberg, and she's gone back to her showgirl lifestyle in Vegas.
No, she's upgraded to Vegas because when we met her in the first one, she was in Reno.
Oh, she was in Reno?
Which is like...
You. Oh. There aren't any Real Housewives of Reno.
No. And now she's a Vegas headliner.
A Vegas headliner, although that show was a mess.
You think so?
Because those men set her up for unsuccess, like the opposite of success.
Which men? The men in the bikinis?
No, the men that were like supposed to be making sure that she flew where she needed to fly.
Oh, yeah. That part. Yeah.
So the nuns come and get her, and they're like, hey, we got the school.
The school of troublemakers and delinquents.
Right. And we were hoping that maybe you could heal them through the power of song, which led me to ask myself this question. I have never heard Whoopi Goldberg sing any other time but in the Sister Act movies. Does Whoopi Goldberg sing?
I was thinking the same thing. I thought, did she sing her own stuff? And I meant to research today, but you know that I am in full production mode for my store, so I didn't get to do anything other than watch the movie.
Yeah. I don't think she sings in Ghost, even for fun.
I can't think of any movie. Does she sing in Karina?
I don't believe so. But Karina sounds like a movie that has music in it.
I'm trying to think if she doesn't sing in Color Purple, like not seriously.
No, they do the hand clapping thing.
Yeah. It's been a minute since I've seen The Color Purple. I should watch it before the musical comes out on screen.
And as we know, I saw The Color Purple when I was on stage. I saw it on stage, but that was when I was a grown-up and I could process it. The first time I saw The Color Purple, it was right after you had the channel on your TV that scrolls through what every channel is playing, the TV guide channel.
Yeah.
And I was 7. I was 7. I wasn't over 10, and it said the color purple, and I was like, "Purple is my favorite color," and I was home alone from school because I was sick or I was faking sick,
Natalie.
and I grew up in the 90s where parents were just like, "You'll be straight if you have 7 Up," and The Price is Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, did you have awakening?
Yeah, so I watched The Color Purple, and you know when you're, like, sick and delirious? You're just like, I don't know." Like,
Yeah.
mhm.
Oof.
Yeah.
Girl.
So I don't know why I grew up to have such a nose for men who are full of shit, but it could be because of Whoopi and Oprah
It's
Winfrey and
probably
The
because
Color Purple.
yeah, it's probably because of the color. Well, so really, truly, Alice Walker, because
Alice
she is
Walker.
the originator of the story.
Thank you so much, Alice Walker.
Mhm.
It is through your guidance that I was traumatized early enough to never trust a man.
Yeah, isn't that
Isn't
interesting?
that interesting?
There's a lot, like, when we were there's a lot that I'm like, I think I need to do a comprehensive, like, legitimate study of, like, here is all of the examples of why we were told of why we believe X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, in the first Sister Act too, like, she's on the run from her boyfriend, and
Who
there
is a
is
bad, bad
who is a
man.
bad man, and there is violence against her. So it
Yeah.
again just like backs up my point that I made during our Final Girls episode about how like women are bred and to believe that at some point will be a victim or a survivor of violence.
Yeah,
And
it's not a
that's
matter
it.
of if, it's when.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Rather than raising better men, we raise women to be on the defense all the time.
All the time. Which doesn't really happen in Sister Act 2 because again, we're just trying to save an inner city school. But
The whole time I'm like, I wonder what neighborhood. They never named the neighborhood in San Francisco.
Mm-mm.
I'm very curious.
Are they in San Francisco
Mhm.
for the school? I thought that they drove out of their city to get to San Francisco to whatever competition they were at because it was
Yeah,
like
they
a big
drove
deal.
from San Francisco to Hollywood.
Oh, oh, that's right.
Girl.
Everyone, don't worry. In December, Jules is literally taking me everywhere in
Yeah.
California, and I will start to understand
Which
California.
I was like, that's like, okay, so I wonder, because from where I am to Hollywood is about a 5.5 hour drive.
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco is northwest of me. So then I was like, I wonder how long that drive is. Because if you take the 101, that's like a long drive.
A long drive.
But then you have to get on the one at some point. I don't remember.
Who's to say? And I don't know.
That's why Hollywood is banking on the fact that we don't know geography. So that way they can do things like, we'll just drive there. Like when Sister, the skinny one who is like the quiet singing one, was like,
Mary Clarence. No, that's her name.
That's
I don't know
Boris
any of the nuns'
Cartier.
names.
She's like, it's gonna be $2,000 with food and lodging and transport. And I was like, what?
Number one, $2,000 is about my grocery bill at this point.
And
Like,
she goes, it might as well be $1 million. And I'm like, oh, 1993, what a time.
what a time. What a time to be alive. But let's talk about how $2,000 seemed like a lot of money to the nuns. It also seems like a lot of money to me because I make around $2,000 a month.
And it's like, it's like, oh, after you pay for everything, then you're like, oh, I guess I could live on water. I guess
Right.
that's fine.
Yeah. And that's why Afterpay is a thing now. So
yes.
I thought that we would start in the school because when we picked this movie, we said, well, won't it be nice watching a non-white woman help inner city kids?
Right.
There's no Hilary Swank. There's no
Michelle Pfeiffer
in sight. There's no, I mean, Robin Williams at least taught poetry to other rich white men.
Yeah.
But it's just an inner city school that was like, we need a woman with an inner city attitude to help out.
Yeah, you don't act like no nun.
You don't act like no nun. Okay, Frankie.
I was like, Frankie. Did Frankie walk So every mediocre white rapper could run.
Yes, Frankie was the
I was
original
like,
Eminem.
I don't even have to. I was like, I don't have to narrow it down. There's so many to choose from.
Yes, I love Frankie. Because I love Frankie because usually,
Hey.
hey, this is why I love Frankie, because usually that character or that man in my life who thinks he's real straight, Justin Timberlake, yo, what's up, genuine? Za, za, za. That's my Justin Timberlake.
I feel like that's an accurate representation. Go ahead.
Maybe Michelle Williams will call me. But I'm doing Britney's sequel. So what I like about the character Frankie is usually when I run into Frankie's archetype in my real life, they're the most fragile of men because they truly believe that they are straight. And yet their mom still cuts their steaks for them. And so you remind them that they actually are the most horrifically untalented person you've ever ran into, and then they want to kill you. But and then they're mad and they're crying. But like Frankie, he just takes the razzes as they come, because unlike Julia Stiles in Save the Last Dance, he understands that he has just kind of assimilated into the school and he still doesn't quite meet the bill.
Right. Because you know what? That Mary Had a Little Lamb rap was what it was.
What it was. And he knew.
He knew. But I do like the juxtaposition of him and what's his name? The character who is very in tuned, something James.
Oh yeah, the one with the solo.
Yes. I like their banter. I don't know if it's appropriate now because I have no gauge in that in this arena, I guess. But like, I just felt like he was ahead of his time in terms of representation, because now we do have a lot more of an understanding of like colonization and the oppression of Black citizens in this country. And so like his character is like, why
do you get to rap when yeah, and he doesn't do it in like an unkindness, because that would have set the white people off and Disney would have lost money.
Right.
So he's just like, my brother in Christ.
Right. Like, let me call you in instead of calling you out.
Right. You're appropriating my culture.
Amal, that was his first name.
Well, he changed it at the beginning of the movie, so it's very confusing.
Yeah, he was like something James, and he's like, James is the name of my oppressor, and I was like, yup. They put the cast in order of appearance, so it's everyone in the fucking Vegas show is listed.
How dare? Why would they do that?
I don't know. It's so rude.
IMDb, you so stupid. But number one, I have taught in a school that had recently decided that they were going to serve underserved children and take vouchers in order for children from all economic backgrounds to be able to come to the Catholic school. And I have also had to be like under the thumb of archdiocese who aren't around, but like come in and decide that they know something.
Like Crispy.
Like Crispy. Yes.
Mr. Crisp. Go with God, Crispy.
He was very triggering. He was, because and we had that guy too. That guy who could not look the kids in the eye, who could not look at us as people, because he was the money guy. Yeah. And the money guy isn't around to make like sure that kids get extra like bonus stickers or whatever.
Yeah.
The money guy is there to make sure that the budget lines up and that we're going to be able to keep the lights on next year.
Right. One of the things that I think, I mean, obviously, because I was 9 years old when this movie came out, and it is like a core part of my being. But watching it this week, I realized there's something to the lack of understanding that even children in areas of economic strife deserve something, right? So like I really appreciate, I mean, does it always have to be music? No, but that's just the easiest one for the storyline. But I really appreciate how it's like these kids aren't dumb. These kids aren't actual deviants like the way that they want to pretend like they are in the beginning. They just have talent in an area that no one offered before.
Right.
And I think that it's so important with like the education of our children is to allow the space for kids to figure out what their strength is, because this push into everyone should go to college, everyone should do X, Y, and Z, but it's like not everyone's good at that. Like you need to let people, preferably starting in the age of kindergarten, explore and understand and find their strengths, because I'm not great at math, and that's also a systemic design because women, it will be more successful if we understood numbers better. But at the same time, it's like there's no space for that. So this school is at the brink of, being shut down because there's not even an emotional investment. Like the nuns are like, we're here because God told us to be here, and it's like, yeah, but like emotionally invest. Like the Latin teacher just being like, Latin, 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 Latin in front of the classroom, but like the kids aren't paying attention. It's like, homie, like meet the kids where they are. Like, why aren't you doing that? So I love that like Dolores is the one who comes in and is like, oh shit, you guys can sing? Oh shit, this school used to be known for like its choir. Like, let's do it. Who's down?
Right. And and one of my notes is I was like, yes, Sister Act 2 made me believe that one day I too would get to talk to children like they were in fact people because I was their teacher.
Yeah.
And we don't do that shit anymore because now everyone's a number and a test score.
Oh, it's so heartbreaking.
And like even the best teachers who try to like really get gritty and really try to like talk to kids like they are people and like talk to kids like they've got some sense. Because that was always my go-to. I would look a kid dead in the eye. I'd be like, why are you talking to me like you don't have sense?
Yeah.
And then they'd be like, I am so sorry. And I'd be like, yeah, I thought you were sorry. Go sit down.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where you can either lean in to what it is that is actually going to make a child successful, or you can continue to be like, why don't you care about calculus very much?
Yeah. And the other part of that too is these kids aren't generally cruel, right? Like they pull pranks on Sister Mary Clarence. They kind of laugh a little bit when they're watching the nuns perform. But at the end of the day, when she's like, hey, you all can think it's ridiculous and make fun of them, but they got out there. They did something bold that you all haven't done. And they were like, yeah. And so they cheer for them when they come onto the bus. So they're still like, to me, that's like, they really could have taken this film in a direction where you do have like the undertones of cruelty that you have to overcome, but no one in the movie is really cruel. Even Crisp is like, he's the villain because he's the numbers cruncher and he wants to retire, but he's not cruel.
No. And they kind of remove, like they say, like it's a class that's troubled. It's a class that like pushes your buttons or whatever, but they never go, we have no idea. Our hands are tied with these kids and we're about to just kick them all out and no one's going to graduate. It's just always like, we have reached our talent threshold when it comes to these children, and we need a different approach. So we found a different approach.
Yeah. And Mary Clarence is great at that because even when she first walks in and does the nails on the chalkboard and she's like, hey, I'm here. What's up? And Sketch is falling asleep on his desk because he's works nights, which is common. And she's like, hey, I respect that you have a job and that you've got this amazing artistic talent. I can't have you sleep in my classroom. So we got to figure this out. Like just meeting them in a place where it's like, I understand that you have a life outside of this classroom. What can I do to make you successful?
Well, and there's nothing that makes, because I experienced it firsthand, there's nothing that makes other like very capitalistic mindseted 9-to-5 adults crazier than you telling them, that child's sleep is important. They didn't get it last night, so I'm going to let them catch some Z's during the morning meeting because she's going to catch up on her work. And I know she's going to catch up on her work.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's like this, it's like there's this subtle, quiet example of how you can meet the needs of a large, I mean, the classroom is large. It's like 30 kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of people.
Also, a lot of times these movies lend towards they're unreachable and they don't want to learn, which is something that we're currently hearing a lot with the current like climate of students coming back from COVID into schools where they're not really actually prepped to sit into a classroom with 25 other kids. And we're not prepped to actually give them classroom environments where like we're meeting halfway about the trauma that we all experienced within the past 5 years.
Right.
So you get a lot of that as a teacher. Like, you know that a teacher is struggling and grappling, and I did it too, when they always say they just don't want to learn. They just didn't want to. The moment that Lauryn Hill stands up and says, "I'm out, who's coming with?" And she has a big Jerry Maguire moment, the other kids are like, we my mom's going to kick my ass if I get a D in music. Like,
yeah. And that's what I think like part of what I was trying to say earlier too, where it's just like, it doesn't take this sort, there's grit there, but it doesn't take it so gritty that like, you're just like, well, the state of the world is horrific. Why are we even bothering?
Yeah.
And got to do a shout out to Cheryl Lee Ralph, because she is the fear we all have when it comes to parenting, but she redeems herself in the end. But like, even just with having her as part of the conflict of like, your dad tried and he literally tried dying, and I don't want that for you. So again, it's like, your mom's afraid, your mom is scared, and that is why she's behaving this way. She eventually comes around, which I love, but it is that moment of like, it is that reminder of like, parents don't want their children to struggle and to have a hard time and to, you know, not take care of themselves. And so sometimes that comes out in a way that feels unsupportive, is unsupportive, it comes from a lack of understanding. And I really loved that resolution, because she was just like, I mean, she apologized, right? Like, she literally says, "I'm sorry," which we never see parents apologize, or at least in real life, we don't get apologies when they are due.
And what Sister Act 2 reminds me of is when we fail our students and our people as a society, you won't catch us being vulnerable.
Right.
Like, art and performing is an act of vulnerability. If you are a child who has to worry about your after-school job, taking care of your siblings, having a neighborhood that your mom doesn't want you to be out very late in. If you have all of these other pressures, and we saw it in the hate that you give too, people don't really understand that it takes people in those situations double the energy to be like, and what if I just stepped on the sludge and like also decided that I was an artist?
Well, and that's also kind of why I hate the bootstraps analogy too, because it implies that you have, I mean, and we've heard this from people before, it implies that you have bootstraps, but like, there is a time where it can get to you. And you and I have experienced this before, where it's like, I just need someone to tell me, good job, because it does start to feel very lonely and very scary. The arts aren't valued in any way, shape, or form until you're already super famous, which is like, cool, fuck off. Like, where were you?
Backwards.
It's totally backwards. And so to look at children and to say things like, and to kind of treat them in a way where they're not savable, which is what I love about the three nuns going to get Dolores, because it's not, well, we're going to try and save them. It's, you know, who's going to know how to figure out a solution for this? It's Dolores Van Cartier,
because she's lived through stuff,
and
the nuns have not.
Yeah, they took a vow of chastity and poverty.
Our baby nuns. Our baby nuns, who I love dearly.
Yeah. Rita Louise Watson.
I love them. And I cried when they performed at the old people's home, because
it was so good.
Because they were performing that song. What is it called? The Wheel of Change. What's it called?
Oh, people moving out, people moving in because of the color of the skin. Run, Run,
Run,
run,
run.
but you sure can't hide.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna get,
it's a very political movie, isn't that? Or song.
is it Wall of Confusion?
Some Born Confusion. Ah, shit.
I don't know. God damn it.
It's not our era. It's not our generation.
Thank God I didn't try to sing that one as the intro. But I cried because, like, for one thing, so much of that song is still very prevalent today.
Yeah.
And like it serves
Ball
as
of
a
confusion.
ball of confusion. I had
Wait,
wall.
yeah, ball of. Well, it rhymes.
Yeah.
Sorry, and it's the Temptations.
And it's the Temptations, who I have seen live
Yeah.
with the Beach Boys. We love the Temptations.
I thought it was Born Confusion. I don't know.
I don't know.
Continue.
We tried our best.
Continue.
So much of that song is like, and we know why Dolores picked it is because she's like, the song is relevant to these kids. We have not actually moved that needle as far as we think that we've moved that needle. And I was like, well, here I am, Dolores, Sister Mary Clarence, and I'm sitting at 2023 bawling my eyes out because that needle still refuses to budge.
Yeah, it's very relevant still 30 years later. And I think with this movie, it's still relevant today because the concept of like kids are misunderstood still happens. You know, it's just a little different now because we do have the internet, but also there's a lot more space for isolation. At least this group had each other. Like they had each other to support each other and go through things together and just really like be there for each other. Like that scene when Rita and the other gal are playing the piano and singing, and she's like, girl, you can sing and come back to the choir. They'll bring you back. She's like, no, I can't. You know why? And then all the, and I don't know. It just feels like even though Rita felt like she was lost and confused, she still had a community. Yeah, she had to step away from it for a bit because her mom, but she still found her way back, and she still and like she totally thrived. Like she crushed it at the competition. Of course she did. It's Lauryn Hill.
It's Lauryn Hill. My entire childhood was killing me softly.
I was gonna say that thing.
I also do love me some doo-wop.
Yeah, me too.
Girl, you know you better watch out.
That song is literally on my 2022 playlist because I was my 2022 vibe playlist because what was I forget what happened, but I was like, you know what I need right now?
That thing,
so
that
I put
thing.
it on my playlist, but then I would like hit replay. Just like let's just listen. Let's just drive through town like it's fucking 1998 right now.
We forgot to remind people that if they're viewing us right now, that they have to say hello in the comments, or else we don't know that you're there, and we don't know that you love Sister Act. I also forgot our banner.
What are we even doing here? What are we even doing here?
I don't know. I think we were just so moved that I kept singing.
Yes, yes.
I think we were just really moved. So, anyways, I think the biggest part of this movie for me is when I was going through teacher school, when I was 19, 22 years old, going through teacher school, there were a lot of kids that in my freshman year I loved. And then by the time we were seniors, I was so fucking sick of them talking to me from a pulpit about how we were the future of saving millions of children.
See, and that's the wrong attitude.
And it's the wrong attitude. It's the wrong attitude if you're in an underserved community. It's the wrong attitude if you're in an overserved community. Number one, it means you have bad boundaries between you and those kids and their families.
Yeah.
But also, I went to school in very rural Indiana, so we can imagine the color of the people. And it's this idea that, like, as teachers, we put on a cape every day and we're a hero.
Yeah.
Mary Clarence wasn't their hero. She was their teammate.
Right.
And I always and I think that way about Mr. Feeney sometimes. I'm like, Mr. Feeney wasn't their hero. He was their grandpa. Like, he was their Like,
Yeah, because that component is missing in a lot of ways, right? Like, I have a teacher that I'm still in contact with, and I don't view her as a peer. There's no way, shape, or form that she's my peer. She is somebody I respect because she has modeled what caring for someone who has talent looks like. Like, there's this generational support that exists, right? Because it's like you have your peers, they had each other, they supported each other, but then you still need like the level above you to feel like they're a part of the team, to feel
mhm.
like they're included in the mess. They're different, but they're included.
And I think that, like, that's what happens sometimes when we're sitting, not that you and I do this anymore, but when we're sitting in corporate settings
Yeah.
and they're trying to, like, professionally develop us, and they're preaching and they're, like, being like, "This is how I'm gonna save you through the free meditation app that we got for everybody." And it's like, "No, I literally just want you to be my teammate, because if you're my teammate, you actually do believe that I deserve to eat."
Well, and so there's that. And then it's like, we need to all make sure we're on the same page, right? Like Mary Clarence walks in going, what's my goal here? And she thinks she has a goal when she walks in, and then she realizes the goal needs to change because the kids are not what she expected. I worked for a company that was like, we want to work with social driven companies. And I said, okay, what does that mean? And then they started talking about shit that has nothing to do with social change. And I said in the meeting, I said, oh, our definition of social movements are very different. And they
Yeah.
just like looked at me and I was like, how dare you use the phrasing, we want to work with companies making social change, when social change has meant for the last 200 fucking years, civil rights and justice.
Ball of confusion.
Like make it make sense. And so I think what's so beautiful about this movie is that, again, I'm repeating myself. The white teachers don't go, we're going to save it, we're going to fix it. They go, you know who we need because we're out of our depth? Mary Clarence, because she understands life.
Mhm. And let me tell you, Mary Clarence doesn't even walk in and be like, "It's my time to shine. Where's my cape? I'm gonna save
Right.
baby Lauren Hill." She's like, "No, I'm gonna get to these kids right where they are, and I'm gonna be right where they are every step of the way."
Right.
And Mary's sister Clarence, sister Mary Clarence, Clarence sister Mary, ball of confusion.
Tell me you forgot about Catholic shit without telling me you forgot Catholic shit. It's
Dolores.
Dolores Van Cartier.
I'm convinced that all of the nuns are named Mary, and that's why Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, because it's like Sister Mary Joseph and Sister Mary like Margaret or something. I don't know.
So the great thing about Dolores is
Sister Mary Robert, Sister Mary.
They're all named Sister Mary.
Yeah, and then like Sister Mary Patrick. So they're all named after. Is Robert a saint?
I don't know.
Sister Mary Lazarus. I don't know. Sorry, go ahead. I derailed us a little bit.
So anyways, she's allowed to do that in a vacuum, because I have been the person who has been asked, why you get a lot out of your kids? And I'm like, because every day I know where those kids are, and I'm just going to be a little bit higher than them.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge part of it. And I understand it's really hard to do that when you have a classroom full of 45 kids. I get that. I also think that our system isn't really designed for children to be heard or seen or taught to thrive.
What? Capitalism's bad for the babies? Who said?
Right.
When did capitalism become bad for the babies?
I remember. Sorry, go ahead. I cut you off on your bit.
Did I grow up in a world that was bad for both women and children? They put us first during the Titanic.
They sure did, unless you were in third class.
Unless you were in third class and then you drowned because they assumed you had fleas.
Correct. Unless you were an American. I remember when, I think it was Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was our governor. I could be mistaken. Someone can fact check it. But there was the governor. There was a point in California's history when they were like, we're going to cap kindergarten classes at 20 kids. There's absolutely no reason for it to be more than 20 kids. The outpouring of pain, I think it might have been the teachers union.
The teachers union?
Maybe it wasn't the teachers union, but either way, there was somebody who came out that represented a large body of people that was like, the fuck? And you're just like, no, but do you really want to be in a room with 45 4 and 5-year-olds? Because at the time you could still have 4-year-olds in the class. Now you have to solidly be 5 to enroll in kindergarten. But I was like, so when people were mad about it, my mom and I were just like, no, but have you been in a room with 50 4 and 5-year-olds? It's not great. And that's just in a social setting. Try teaching them.
Number one, any pre-K or kindergarten teacher, and I was both, will tell you that 20 is still too much.
Yeah, I 20 is so still too.
Yeah, 20 is still too much to meet everyone's needs because they literally come into you and you're like, this is a pencil. And they're like, what? And I'm like, a pencil, you have to write with it. They're going to make you take a test. And they're like this?
Does it go in my ear? Can I do this with it?
I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
And that's your entire first quarter. Your entire first quarter is acclimating them to a pencil and places on a carpet.
Yeah. And we in our school district recently, or I think it was a state thing. High school starts later because they decided that the teenagers need to sleep. And so like it adjusted the entire, so now like elementary school starts at 8:30 and like there's all these changes that have happened and parents were like howling in the wind over it. And my first immediate thought was, you know what the problem is we all used school like a fucking daycare. Because we are demanded to be at work by 8:00 because 8:01 is late. And so school doesn't start till 9. So that means I am fucked. And that's a huge part of the problem. We do not have a system designed for families to thrive unless a parent stays at home to shuttle all the children around because none of the schools start at the same time. They're all staggered, which makes sense. But like, there's nothing about our society that is like, hey, so there's 2 working parents. How do we make this work for everybody? Or like, oh, sorry, now I'm getting on a soapbox. I fucking hate perfect attendance. That shit needs to stop.
My mom and I just went off about perfect attendance because once again, one of her kids showed up with a fever. Yeah. And I was like, Mom, you need to start asking your parents if they're getting truancy notices. And she went, what? I was like, a lot of the problem is that parents feel like they lose the right to keep their kids home when they're sick. Because if your kid is a kid that is sick a lot, or you have a lot of family emergencies that year, they told me I wasn't going to graduate high school because of all of the school I missed when my grandma was sick, and then the leading depression after that. And
it's not even just,
and I was like, and my principal was like, Natalie, how am I supposed to let you graduate? And I was like, I need you to pull up my class rank right now. And he did. And I was like, 8 out of 400. And I was like, so you're not going to let me, a top 10 student, graduate? Okay, great. How's that going to look?
It's so stupid. Like, we have a program in our city that kids who have a perfect attendance every month in high school get entered into a raffle for a free fucking car and a free year of car insurance.
Okay.
And I'm like, what if I have depression? And I can't actually like make it to school. So it's not even just the physical health. It's also the mental wellness as well. And that's the part where I'm just like, we need to stop. And I understand, how do you figure out how to meet the needs of millions of people? I get it. The current structure right now doesn't work. I'm not saying light it all on fire and start over. I'm saying maybe we need to listen to what people's needs are and figure it out from there.
So I went to vote today around 2 because that's when I could pick up my birth control. And I was like, well, this is fitting. I'm going to vote for abortions and weed and then go ensure that I'll never have a baby. And it was 2:00 and I turned out of my neighborhood and there was a fucking school bus. And I was like, what kids are home 3 hours before their parents are realistically home?
I got out of school at 2.
See? And you think, well, it's and you're thinking like, well, it's teenagers, maybe that'll be fine. Or is it 12-year-olds? Or is it a 9-year-old?
When my siblings were kids, my my mom was home after school with them because she worked at her school. When I was in high school, that wasn't the case.
Right.
There was nobody ever home. And when my son went to school, I kept him in the after school program after school, which cost an additional, I don't even know how much money anymore. But
Well,
then
and
once we
also,
got into junior high, it was like, okay, you can ride your bike home. But also, we lived in a space where nobody knew where we lived. So it didn't make me feel concerned.
there's like a monetary cost to that of just
It
being
was an
like, put
hour
your
and a half difference, too, by the time he got home from the time I got home.
So there's a monetary value to that time of
Uh-huh.
like, I had to have a cost and put my kid in an after school program, but they also have a mental and an energy cost because
Right.
I knew kids that were in school for 14 hours a day because
Right.
their
Well, in
parents could drop them off at 6 and pick them up at 7.
So in California, you can't drop them off earlier than 7 a.m. and they can't be in later than 6. So our daycare was literally like, it is a $5 fee for every minute you are late.
Mm-hmm.
Because then they're in violation of the state policy, which is a
Yeah.
huge fine. But yeah, it's just what I and going back to Sister Act 2, I think one of the things that I loved this time around watching it is just the messaging of like, hey, teens aren't a pain in the ass. They need help figuring out the steps in life because they're confusing. It's confusing. And they got people surviving on the outside for them as well. Like Cheryl Lee Ralph, she's like, I don't want this shit for you because your dad literally died trying. So that's why she's harsh on her. You know, and she's struggling to get by herself because she's doing hair in her living room
After her 9 to 5.
Yeah. So it's like,
and
the
then,
structure's not good, people.
So when I saw that school bus, I was like, well, there's a visual about how fucking America doesn't make sense because they're like, capitalism dictates that we are our best selves, our best little worker bee selves from 9 to 5, but our kids are getting home at 2. And then you want to yell because the kids ain't got nowhere to be.
And they're unsupervised.
And they're running rampant. Like,
where are your parents?
Where are
Working
your
because
parents?
rent is $6,000. Thank
Right.
you.
So then I also enjoyed what little we got to see of the actual neighborhood because it wasn't a white savior movie. So there wasn't any like outrageous violence within this
Right.
underserved neighborhood.
Right.
That neighborhood gave them all of their dollars because Sister Mary Clarence saying, "What's going on?" or something.
Oh, she emulated James Brown.
Yes, she did. Did she
I
sing
love
"What's
that
Going
scene.
On"? What did she name? Get up off of that thing.
Yeah, dance until you feel better. I love that scene because it's such a strong showing of community. And I think what a lot of people assume of lower socioeconomic neighborhoods is that there is no community when that is false.
Correct. Also, what I have learned as I get older and deeper into poverty, thank you, capitalism and student loans, is TikTok says I don't have to pay them. And TikTok might be my government. So anyways, what I have learned as
I have nothing funny to say. I just got in a fight with somebody about TikTok the other day because we have differing views about it. Go ahead.
As I get older and deeper into poverty, what I have noticed is it is your community. It's not your parents. It's not your government. It's not like, or it is your family because they're a part of your community. But when people love and when people act out of love, they're like, I'll buy your ticket to that. Let's go to the thing.
Yeah, I no longer feel bad when someone offers to pay for something for me because I'm like, I can't afford to do it. And then they supply that because then it's like, you want me here. That's what that is telling me. It's not out of pity. It's not out of sadness for me. It's not out of anything other than I want to experience this and I want to experience it with you. So I got your ticket.
So I think like what we've been taught is that the human spirit is directly linked to capitalism.
Yeah.
But what I'm seeing is that the human spirit is actually enduring capitalism and adapting around it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what's going on with these kids. Number one, like we have all of the data in the world that our fucking schools don't make sense.
Mhm.
We have all the data in the world that literally kids in Switzerland who get to tear up grass and like dig in dirt all day or whatever outperform us in triple, if not 5 times the numbers.
Yeah.
Like, there's no arguing. There's no arguing that our schools don't fucking make sense. So there's just like a blind ignorance to continue to undereducate our children because they will be easier to compel and to control.
Yeah, it's either school to prison or school to warehouse pipeline.
Mm-hmm. And Mary Clarence was like, not these kids. These kids are
Mhm.
going to Hollywood. And it wasn't even Sister Mary Clarence. It was all those other Marys. They were like, we entered you in a contest because we didn't know that the priest had already yelled at you.
We entered you into a contest because we believe in you.
Because we believe in you.
Because even when the kids are like, oh God, we'd only just started singing together, and they're like, yeah, but you're amazing. You can do it. Like, who doesn't want support like that when you demonstrate talent?
Yes. Also, I was very impressed that they do actually win the competition without their like choir robes and nonconformity, because that's not what the Catholic Church is about. They were like, what? Did they gyrate up there? That's not be with God.
Well, I don't think the competition was a Catholic Church thing. I got the impression that it wasn't, because did you see all those black choirs? That's some Baptist shit. That's some Black Baptist shit right there.
There we go then. It was a gospel competition. And I only believe in Christianity as an umbrella term because I removed myself and I did not portion it out in my brain. So yeah, good call. But even then, there were a lot of white people on that judging panel.
Yeah.
White people get scared when people are dancing in joy.
Yeah, but I also felt like them going out of the norm. One, that's very much an underdog move. And you know what I mean? Like, for an underdog movie, they have to like win. They have to do something unique to win.
Mhm.
And two, it felt very 90s.
Yes.
Because when the boys come out and do the rap, you're just like,
yes.
Yeah, you're like dressed like Criss Cross. I don't know if Criss Cross was popular in 93. I can't remember. It's all one decade smushed together in my brain now. But like, you know, it was just very much like that choir scene at the competition very much to me encompassed everything that was like what was youth of the early 90s.
Mm-hmm. And it is such a fun movie. And there's like no baggage to the movie.
Right. It's a great flick. It's like, so good.
Lauryn Hill's dad didn't get shot, and that's why he died. Like, even when our little Hispanic student is like, I don't know, Mary had a little lamb, and they want to dog her for it. And Sister Mary Clarence was like,
Mary had a goat, maybe.
Maybe Mary had a little brother, but we will not.
I love that she channeled a revival pastor. So funny.
But we will not pretend like everyone had a lamb. So sing whatever song you want to sing. And she sang the
Love Boat. Soon we'll be taking another ride.
Because I'm pretty sure in the 90s, if someone was like, quick, sing a song, it would be like, the flashy girl from Flushings, the nanny named Fran. I'd like do the whole nanny song or the Brady Bunch song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt like
some of us were raised by our TVs.
Well, yeah, and I feel like it tracks too, because all of the stuff from the 70s reran forever, you know, well into the 90s. So like when Rosie O'Donnell had her show and she was bringing all of the 70s stars on, I was like, this is heaven, but also like not my generation, but also feels like my generation because I watched all the reruns.
Well, it's like, number one, I will be very upset if like students of mine, so like, remember how my sister showed her students Jurassic Park and she always says it's a 50-50 split on whether or not a kid has seen it. There are days where I like sit around and I'm like, do kids of today not understand how important Rosie O'Donnell is?
Well, there's a video going around on Reels or TikTok, I forget which one, where this guy is like, grandparents today are soft because my mom called and wanted the Disney credentials so they could watch Bluey. back in my day, we had to sit through Matlock, Murder, She Wrote, and like list all these shows. And he's like, the through line is murder. And it was our grandparents watching it. And this is why we like, it was so funny. Cause I was like, yeah, we are no longer like my parents' generation is not what I'm watching, whatever I want, you have to deal. They're like, honey, what do you want to watch? Whereas our grandparents are like, the TV's on, I'm watching Gunsmoke. Fuck off. Like,
I am watching Larry King for the 18th time today. He might have something new to say about the Peterson case.
I do want to throw out, though, my cousin and I spent summers together at my grandparents' house in the country, and this film was on repeat, and this is still the movie that brings our bond, that keeps our bond strong. Like, a couple weeks ago, she texted me and she's like, I think I want to watch Sister Act 2 and I think I want to force my kids to watch it. And I was like, I 100% support this decision because none of our children have sat through this movie. They do not have the same affection for this film that we have. So I texted her a few days later. I was like, well, and she's like, 2 out of 4 loved it. And I was like, clearly those are the 2 that we're going to care for and love the most.
The most. Those 2 are our favorites.
They clearly have the best taste.
I don't know what you did wrong with those other 2.
Questionable. But this movie is one that not only reminds me of a really comforting time, or time that I wish that I could go back and spend more time in. It reminds me of a time when I felt special. It reminds me of a time when I was unconditionally loved, because at my grandparents' house, that's all it was. Time with my cousin, who I'm closer in age to than my siblings. Like, it's a very nostalgic movie for me, more than just it's a great film and I can sit through it and I have it memorized and be prepared for me to sing badly during the whole thing. It's also a time when my innocence wasn't questioned, my existence wasn't questioned. I was allowed to exist. I was completely loved, and I knew what all of that felt like, even if it was only like 3 months out of the year.
Yeah, Peg loved sitcoms. So she loved Brady Bunch. When Chelsea covered Marsha Brady's memoir, and I was like, I have a Brady Bunch memory, and I told my mom, I was like, do you remember? I was like, Grandma had taken the train in to come and see us. I go, I'm reading The Little Women. The Brady Bunch is on. Grandma's sucking on a cigarette because she's not going to not smoke in our house.
Right.
Just because we asked her to. She's sucking on a cigarette. And I had cut myself. And she's like, you shaving your legs? And I went, no, because I'm 8. I'm like 10 years old. I don't know. And she's like, you better not be, because you're too young for that hussy bullshit. I was like, yes, ma'am. So my grandma called me a hussy, or a wannabe hussy, which is completely normal in a 90s household.
Right?
And then Greg Brady had 2 prom dates or something, and they found out that he had asked 2 women to prom and had said yes to both of them, or they had both asked him and he didn't want to deal with the confrontation. Peg takes a long drag on her cigarette and goes, you were always a fucking dumbass, Greg. How did you think that was going to work out? And it's like literally seared into my brain.
Love that. I love that.
She also hated when Rachel and Joey dated on Friends. She loved Friends right up until that point, and she's like, "What the fuck is this?"
Exactly. Peg and I are on the same page on that one, because when they introduced that, I was like, I don't know what's going on. Are people on drugs?
What's happening? Although I will argue that sometimes, like, Joey was the nicest one to date out of any of them.
Joey and Phoebe are the best ones out of that whole show.
Amazing. And then Paul Rudd comes on and you're like, well, this is perfect. Just make it these 3.
Yeah, I would watch that spinoff any day of the week.
But I think that, like, the best part about, like, Sister Act 2 is so much of our 2000s media had a lot of baggage to it. Like, we also had to watch Old Yeller die over and over again. And our parents were like, it's a classic.
Yeah.
This is what you have to do when your dog acts like that. Meanwhile, my cat attacked the fuck out of me and I'm just sobbing and letting her have what part of the house she wants.
Right. But back to your point about it being an inner city, and we get the normalcy of it. Like, there's such a negative stigma to inner city life. Or living in a city, period. and the whole concept of the suburbs and just how that's rooted in racism and segregation and all these things. And you have this film that has a predominantly Black cast, and they're not because it was the 90s, so everything had drive-by shootings, everything had gang stuff. Like, you could not convince me that the 90s weren't drive-by shootings and gangs. I was literally thinking the other day, I was like, I haven't seen a TV show do a drive-by shooting in I don't even know how long, but every show in the 90s that was an hour-long drama had a drive-by shooting.
Or two throughout the season.
Yeah. So it's so refreshing that it's like, here's a bunch of kids who are living life, and guess what? None of them died by a drive-by.
None of them died. None of them were murdered by a peer.
Mm-hmm.
Or like Whoopi Goldberg didn't have to go up to a gang leader and be like, not my kids, he has to go to Hollywood. Like,
right.
She had to fight Lauryn Hill's mom. And like, honestly, because as we know,
and she didn't know she had to fight Lauryn Hill's mom until she showed up looking for support. And Lauryn Hill's mom was like, stop trying to convert my children.
Not my children. Because as we know, thanks to our previous episode about Armageddon, there was a lot of casual 90s racism in every movie. And that's all I'll call it from now on, like casual 90s racism and homophobia.
Yeah. Truly. Yeah. And this movie doesn't have that. Like,
no. It is,
I don't know.
It is absent of 90s casual racism. And isn't that something? Because as a little white girl in rural Illinois and Indiana, I too got to be like, Chicago isn't scary. Why are you all scared of Chicago?
Yeah.
Oh, you watched the drive-by shows. Okay, I watched The Nun. I watched Whoopi, like, whoop it up. All right, we have 4 minutes left.
Oh, I'm so comfy with this movie.
Okay, good for you. I was going to ask you if you had any more points because I have one more point.
No.
Okay, fine. I will be devastated and I will take to my bed for days, weeks, months, or years when Maggie Smith dies.
Oh.
Number one, how has Maggie Smith spanned my entire childhood being the same age?
She is phenomenal. Like, when you think about her range, I was watching her as Sister Mary Lazarus, and then I thought, you know who my favorite character in Downton Abbey is? Violet Crawley.
Maggie Smith.
Maggie Smith. Like, she's
telling everyone that they're sluts and poor. Like, yes. I love her.
She's amazing. But I will say, so the one who plays the elder nun, this is her last movie.
Oh, the one who's really short and she's like wild-eyed, or the one that's not supposed to drive the bus anymore?
I think it's the bad driver one.
Okay.
She plays Sister Mary they all do.
They are all
but, like, she's like not the sex ed teacher. She's because not the super young one, not Kathy, but like the third one. And it makes me sad, but also she was old. She was in White Christmas, if anyone ever wants to see her in a younger version of herself.
Right. No one ever told me how old Maggie Smith is, because I don't want to know. I just want to be surprised like she was 42 years old and dropped dead. Like, that's how I would like to live.
Well, they did write her off of Downton Abbey as like a safety precaution.
How dare. How dare.
Like, she was in, I think it's the second movie where she's like, I'm unwell. And I'm like, oh, if there's a third movie, they're not going to have Maggie because they don't want to run the risk, probably.
Okay, well, that's rude. We could make her a hologram. We've done that to Elvis. But so that's my last point. No, we should never be making anyone into a hologram. I don't want to be at the Grammys and all of a sudden, I think the first time we did it, it was to Tupac, and that felt very disrespectful. Yeah, it's like, this is disrespectful. Tupac wouldn't have wanted this. Where was Jada to yell about that? Where was Jada? Do you think Jada wanted to be in this movie and instead Lauryn Hill beat her out for it? Jada, you can tell me. I'm not reading the book. I've listened to one podcast about the book, but if it's in the book that you also wanted to be in Sister Act 2 and Lauryn Hill beat you out, girl, I see you.
I mean, I feel like if you're up against Lauryn Hill, you should just assume, right?
Honestly, Jada. My
Because
favorite
Lauren can sing. Like, she's talented.
as we know, my favorite Jada Pinkett Smith movie in her very prestigious career that she turned down The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air for was in Scream 2. I mean, she's gonna fight me. She's gonna make Will Smith hit me. I'm very
Natalie, I literally have no idea how to respond to any of what you just said.
I'm so mean. It's fine. We're on a Jada kick right now because of the book. And she keeps texting us things that we don't want to know. Anyways.
I just feel like I'm grateful for the podcast that covered her book because I will not be reading it.
I won't be reading it. Because it seemed long. Anyhow, I'd rather give those 48 hours to Barbara Streisand for her
word. Amen to that.
A mutual friend of ours started Barbara Streisand's book today, and I went, "See you in 3 years."
I literally said, "Oof, we'll miss you."
R.I.P. R.I.P. Are we gonna name him? I love it. R.I.P. to Chris DeRosa, who can't be our friend anymore because he's too busy listening to Barbara Streisand's book. I hope he can make our California trip. Anyhow,
we had a good run-in with our friendship with him.
We really did.
Really,
and I already
lasted longer.
So I'm still comfy with this movie too. I'm usually comfy in everything that Whoopi Goldberg has been in ever. Maybe we should rewatch Ghost. I don't know.
I watched Ghost last year because I was like, I need a good cry.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I remember walking away from it going, wait, what?
Ghost is a really fucking weird movie. I
don't think I walked away going, wait, what? Because it was weird. I wish I had taken notes. I don't remember. Or maybe I watched it before I started my show. So that's why I don't have notes on it.
Listen, I gotta say that Ghost is another movie that our grandmas just had on and they were like, enjoy Patrick Swayze, he's gonna die. And we were like, okay. And then like nothing about Ghost makes sense and is suitable for children.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm still comfy. Jules, I mean, I'm literally in pajama pants right now, so maybe that's also lending to my comfy coziness. But plug what you got going on.
Hey friends, I'm Julia Washington. Jules to my friends, host of Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous, where we analyze pop culture through the lens of race or gender and sometimes both. And this week we have an episode about the 1982 movie Annie, starring Carol Burnett, and Tim Curry's in it, and a bunch of people that you'll recognize, but in a much younger form. With It's My Screen Time Too. Such a fun episode. I'm so excited. I can't wait for you all to hear it. Then we also have...
Oh, Jules.
The reading salon is coming up in a week and a half. So that is a virtual silent reading party. So please join us. To get access to that, you have to join our mailing list. It's really easy to do. The reason why
so hard this week.
The reason why I gapped is my city is doing a big event on Small Business Saturday in August. It was announced it was canceled. Last Thursday, they announced it's actually going on now. They're going to do it. And Small Business Saturday is the Saturday after Thanksgiving. And when is that, ladies and gentlemen? November 25th. What is today? November 5th? 7th. So I am in full work my contract hours, produce shit because it's for handmade crafts, this event, and do all the things that I do with Natalie and my own podcast. So my brain is catch me after. Don't ask me if I've watched anything new because I'm only watching comfort shit while I paint so I can have enough inventory to sell. Help me, I'm poor.
Help me, I'm poor. Speaking of being poor, hey everybody, I'm Natalie.
Go ahead.
I host and produce the podcast To All the Men I've Tolerated Before, your weekly look at everyday misogyny. This week we have Erica, and she's talking to us. She's a sex educator, and she's going to talk about how detrimental purity culture and the myth that is virginity is to sex ed, and why we're also undereducated when it comes to our bodies.
I watched the TV show Sex Education, highlights that very clearly.
Yeah, Gillian Anderson basically taught me all of my sex ed. So good for her.
Well done, Mulder or Scully?
Oh, don't. Scully.
Okay, and
Scully.
Well done, Scully.
I have a newsletter too. You're going to want to jump on it. We're going to be making a lot of changes on our Patreon to make it more community focused. One of the things that I meant to make a video about to announce tomorrow, and then TikTok thwarted me, and then my energy dipped.
TikTok.
I had to fight for abortion rights today. So anyways, we are going to roll out a new tradition onto All the Men I've Tolerated Before, and the week of New Year's. Okay, so like that first week of 2024, maybe the first 2 weeks of 2024. We'll see how the holiday season goes.
We'll see if we survive November or December.
On to All the Men I've Tolerated Before. We are going to crown the misogynist of the year.
I can't wait to vote.
So here's the thing. I have been keeping track of all these men and all these misogynists.
It's true. I've watched you.
And I have compiled a list of nominees, but I still want input because maybe your algorithm is different than my algorithm. We'll never know. Maybe I overlooked something while I was preparing for the Eras tour.
I feel like I sent you stuff when things happen.
Honestly.
Yeah.
So we're going to crown the misogynist of the year. The public gets to vote for the top 3. Patreon members get to crown the winner. And that will be our first installation of our new Patreon only series called Misogyny Meltdown.
I love it. I'm so excited.
Where if you are a Patreon member, you are guaranteed some sort of misogyny meltdown from me, whether it be I crown a dude because he's bad.
We're looking at you, Justin Timberlake.
We're looking at you, Justin Timberlake. We're always looking at you. or I
it's fine, we're doing great.
Or I build you up, or I rant, or whatever. It's going to be a very loosey-goosey series because Jules is sick of getting all of my rants. She told me.
Did I tell you that?
No, you didn't. You came up with this idea, and now I'm villainizing you. And everyone,
I was like, I feel like I'm always like here for your rant. I thought it was a great idea. I feel like you should not be villainizing me for this brilliant idea I gave you. You contribute so much to improving my show that I give you one thing and you're going to make me the bad guy?
Damn it. Live on the internet. Do you remember when Jules made me feel bad? What did you make me feel bad for live on the internet?
See the comments.
What?
Something happened, right? Something happened and it's like, oh, the comments. And you're like, yeah, I was going to DM you that.
No, you made me feel bad about something. It was
something else? Oh my God, am I a bad friend?
I feel like someone died. What was it? I was like, oh, so you're gonna call me out on it was either something fucking racist or someone had died.
I don't remember.
I know it's on the show. And I know I clipped it for my TikTok to be like, me? You're gonna put me out on this. So anyways, everyone, don't be afraid of cities.
Oh, you know what? We should plug our new show going out.
I was going to ask you because it's coming out on Friday, but I didn't know if we wanted to wait.
Thursday or Friday?
Friday.
We need a team to help.
Do you think people just sit through this and they're like, oh, here they go?
There's so much that we do, and it's just the two of us.
I can't wait until we're famous enough, like the Critical Role people, where we're getting live comments and it's like, Julia made Natalie feel racist and they've got timestamps.
I'm like, girl, Friday.
Yeah. Okay, so Friday we have a new show. It is called Drama Dump. What's a drama dump, you might ask? Why?
You might wonder.
You might wonder why Drama Dump is Jules and I's new calling. See, we have sat through many a TikTok, many a personal story, many a friend or family story where they say, I would really like it if at some point my loved one, my peer, my colleague, my friend, my family member understood why this is so frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And Jules and I went, we got it. So in order to participate in Drama Dump, all you have to do is have an email address, and you can email us at dramadump@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look at me.
You did
And
it.
you can tell us your story about why you're angry at someone. And to help you gain catharsis, we will scream at them. And we'll be mean, because I am mean.
Yeah. I'm merely the sidekick.
Yeah.
Because Natalie takes the reins, as
I'm
she
mean.
should, because we all know I'm a pacifist.
Jules is a pacifist. She doesn't like noise. She doesn't like violence. And I'm like, what if I throw this?
I don't know if I'm going to survive when the world melts down, because I think we're going to have to do violence to survive. And we all know how I feel about that.
Yeah, and that's on you and your maker. So it's Drama Dump. It's airing Friday on YouTube. It's better as video because of all of the effects that Jules put onto it, but we are going to release it on streams at some point.
Yeah. I'm pretty proud of the visuals that we came up with.
Yeah. And it's another way to support us. It's another way to make us feel famous. And so do that. And
Also
join in on the fun.
Yeah.
And you don't want to scream. You don't want to scream at people. That seems like a lot of emotional and mental load for you, but it's what I live for.
We yell at your families so you don't have to.
So you don't have to. Put it on a t-shirt. Everyone, don't be afraid of cities. Let us know if you survived Barbara Streisand or Jada Pinkett Smith's book. Prayers for Brittany at noon. And most importantly, stay cozy, stay comfy.
Bye, friends.
Bye, friends. Girl, you know you better watch out.